Yeah, those rises in tuition fees planned for 2012 from £3,290 a year up to £6,000 and in some cases £9,000. Students worried then that that £9,000 barrier would simply become the norm. And they say here today this won't be the end. They may plan more marches, more occupations of student buildings, whatever they need to do to keep their message in the public eye. The search for any sign of Sian really stepped up a gear today. She has been missing for almost 4 days, as you say, since early on Saturday morning. Completely unlike her, say her friends and family. And since then, no trace except a mobile phone signal, perhaps more than one mobile phone signal. And that was traced here to somewhere in Savernake Forest. So today, a call for people to come and help search this forest, which was answered not by a handful, but by hundreds of people.
That will deal with you.
Lining up together, a trickle of volunteers soon became a flood. A small civilian search force, many missing work today, to help in the search for Sian.
It's difficult enough to when it's far away, but when it's right on your doorstep, it's not nice.
I see it on the news, see it on Facebook and everything. I just want to come out and do my bit, really.
As a mum, I would want people to come and help look for my children if they've gone missing.
I'm friends with a lot of her friends, and she's always seems to be, quite fun, up for a laugh kind of girl. So hopefully we can bring her back.
Mark down on the map where you've been. We can shade that off so we can plate it all together later.
There have already been more than 200 volunteers here this morning, another 200 due to turn up a bit later. They're all being briefed by police search teams. All the groups given a map, told the areas that have already been searched and where they could go and look. And then when they come back, they have to report back to the police here and say where they've been.
Lined up, shoulder length apart, this community set off into Savernake Forest, told to look for a mobile phone or the contents of a handbag. Sian was last seen at Suju nightclub in Swindon's Old Town early on Saturday morning. This was her route home to the flat she shared with her boyfriend. She never got there, and her phone was traced here half an hour later. 12 miles away, it sent a signal to this phone mast. So that phone was somewhere near here. Was Sian with it? And what happened in that half an hour? The search area could be more than 100 square miles. There is, it seems, no shortage of people willing to search every metre.
Yeah, the rain really doing its worst here at Glastonbury this evening, absolutely tipping down. That, though, hasn't put off thousands of people coming to see one of the biggest bands in the world here on the Pyramid stage, U2. There is, though, a protest planned for during their concert from a group complaining about government cutbacks. What's that got to do with U2? Well, they say the band is legally avoiding paying enough tax. A lot of people not happy about the prospect of a protest during the concert. Here's what one of the organisers told me earlier. Now, you might think that the loss of the Grand Pier hasn't really affected visitors too much here to Weston. It's absolutely packed here today, despite a bit of rain. But when the Grand Pier was open, it would bring in up to 25,000 people on peak days. So not just the pier managers, but the local businesses too will be hoping that those visitors come back this summer rather than next.
Who is outside Joanna's house in the Clifton area of Bristol Forest now. So, Andrew, we heard that at police presser a few moments ago, and the policeman very clear that this is an ongoing missing persons inquiry.
Yeah, missing persons inquiry indeed. The search for Jo Yates very much still continuing, looking for any indication of what may have happened to Jo after she disappeared last Friday. We're actually up on Bristol's Downs area, about 2 miles west of Jo's house. Bitterly cold conditions for rescue teams to be working in, but they've been at it all morning. The guys behind me there just searching these woodlands to my right using ropes as the slope banks down there deeply into the Avon Gorge area, which you can see to my left here. Now, this morning they were abseiling down the rock cliffs there. They'd had reports of a piece of material on the side of the cliff face. The helicopter, which has been flying around for the last few days, couldn't identify it yesterday. They got down there today. Nothing significant found I should add, but they are just trying to eliminate any clues at all. Later on today, the Coast Guards will be travelling down the River Avon here when the river gets a bit lower at low tide, checking the banks there for any clues too. At the moment, though, as they say, nothing's been found. Nothing the police said in that press conference just a few moments ago to indicate that Jo has been abducted. Nothing to say this is anything other at the moment than a missing persons inquiry. Jo went missing, as we know, last Friday. She was last seen after having drinks after work. She left a pub around about 8 o'clock in the Park Street area of Bristol, and then police know from CCTV pictures and from receipts that she made her way steadily back towards her flat in the Clifton area of Bristol. She was captured on CCTV going into a Waitrose, and then again on till receipts they know that she went shopping in a Tesco's supermarket there. Now, they've reiterated today that that receipt that they found from Tesco's in her flat, very important. They found her coat, her bag, her keys and her shopping receipts. What they didn't find was the pizza that she bought there. And also they found no trace of the pizza box. They found no trace of the pizza wrapping. That then, they say, has become a very significant clue. They are asking people here if anybody's seen anything in a bin on the street to get in touch with them, because at the moment they really don't have too much to go on. Now, we saw Jo's parents in a press conference yesterday making a very emotional appeal for any information to come forward. They said yesterday that they felt that she had been abducted. Since then, her brother, as we know, yesterday has been out all across the Clifton area putting up flyers, missing persons posters, all Jo's friends and family doing similar things. There's also a local church here, a very large one, Christ Church in Clifton, which is inviting members of the public in today to light a candle for Jo, to say their prayers. And we know too now that Jo's parents will be holding a midnight mass there and asking people just to think again, just to try and remember anything from over the weekend, from last Friday, anything at all that could give them some information about what's happened to their daughter this Christmas Eve.
And this is the day shift here now. You can see just how busy they are. Take a look at all these parcels dropping off that conveyor belt, about one every second. And this is all mail for Afghanistan. Right, we're going to have a quick chat to Brigadier Russell Beattie. Brigadier Beattie, what's wrong with people sending their own parcels? Surely that's a nice gesture.
Britain's going back to the final frontier with the official launch this week of the UK Space Agency, and Andrew Plant is at the Rutherford Appleton Laboratory in Oxfordshire to tell us more. Morning again, Andrew.
Yes, a very good morning to you, Charlie and Susanna. We've been watching some scientists tinkering away in here this morning. This is the new James Webb Space Telescope that he's working on there. That's taking over from Hubble in a few years' time. We can't actually go in there because it's a contained environment. Apparently, any dust on our clothing would spoil things. But it is one of the projects that the new UK Space Agency is investing its budget in, something in the region of £200 million. Also, at some point, it's planning to put a robot rover on the surface of Mars.
This was the UK's first and last homegrown satellite launch. Prospero sent up into orbit in 1971. But even as it fired off, the launch projects were being cancelled, burning through too much money. 4 decades on, this might not look like mission control, but Swindon is now home to a brand new British space programme. But even as it opens, Swindon may have a problem.
I mean, we don't have as much money overall, but the bang for the buck that we get is outstanding. So we're leaders in areas of planetary exploration. You know, there's British space technology in orbit around Mars and Venus.
NASA has the biggest of all space budgets. France and Germany's are both booming. Britain's new agency, though, blasts off with a fraction of their firepower.
The time delay between Earth and Mars is something like 20 minutes in each direction in the worst case.
Bruno here is one of those projects. Destined for Mars in 2018, the driving system and the eyes being designed here.
Even the mighty NASA has realised that these days success in space means international cooperation. Why? Money. The budget for a rover here like Bruno begins at €250 million.
Since that Prospero project in the 70s, our launchers, landers and rovers have been done on a shoestring. 8 years ago, Beagle 2 fitted in a trolley. Now, though, scientists say it's time to pick up the UK programme, taking one small step in Swindon to put Britain back in the space race.
Well, we can speak now to our correspondent, Andrew Plant, who's at the pub where she spent that last evening with colleagues. So, Andrew, if you can just take us through, first of all, what the police have been doing there today.
Yeah, we're about halfway up Bristol's Park Street here, not geographically the centre of Bristol, but one of its busiest roads for pubs, clubs, bars, that sort of thing. And over my shoulder there, as you say, the Bristol Ram. Now, that's where police know on Friday the 17th of December, Jo Yates went for drinks after work with work colleagues. She left that pub around about 8 o'clock, they think, and then would have walked in that direction up towards her home in Clifton. Now, Clifton is where police have been centring their investigation up until now. But today, CID, plainclothed officers, back here today in the Bristol Ram pub, not looking for physical clues, but trying to jog people's memories. We understand they spoke to a few dozen people inside. They know that the 17th of December will have been one of the busiest nights pre-Christmas for people coming out for drinks. This is a very busy road anyway, but on that night it would have been full of Christmas revellers. So what they're asking for then is for people to jog their memories. Any clue at all that they could come up with, even things they've forgotten, because what police are saying today is people out here in Bristol that night will have seen Jo, they will have seen her leaving the pub, they will have seen her on her walk home. What they want to know is what they saw and when.
Used to be darts and snooker that took people into pubs as well as the drinking, of course. Now pubs across the UK have turned to our love of quizzes to keep people coming in.
More than 100,000 of us take part in one every single week, and they're worth more than £100 million to the pub trade every year. Now, though, the question setters are waging war against people who cheat using internet phones.
New data released in Germany strongly suggests that locally produced what were the source of the deadly E. coli outbreak.
A few drinks, a few friends, and the lure of a cash prize. The Humble Quiz has become the pub game, from small beginnings to a multi-million-pound industry.
I'm sure you've all got them turned off already, but you know, the old iPhones, Blackberries...
But as internet phones have boomed, a question mark has hung over the game, with pubs determined that internet cheating doesn't put the regulars off.
It improves trade on a Sunday night. I mean, we wouldn't want to say anything unless it's sort of red-handed. It's like, you know, you're using your phone, you're cheating, and you're looking at writing the answer down, sort of thing.
So this is our dispatch room where all the quizzes are printed, packaged.
Here at the UK's largest quiz supplier, they're making sure the answers come from quick thinkers, not fast fingers.
Each one has the please don't use your mobile during the quiz logo that we've got on all our games now. We would probably never do the question such as what's the capital of somewhere, unless it was probably Trumpton or somewhere like that. You know, we might do something slightly odd, but we would constantly look at that question and think, can we come at a different angle? So you've got the same question, but it's written in a very clever way that makes it much harder to get that sentence into your phone and hit go and wait for the results and get the answer down.
This distribution centre's on the go 7 days a week. If you're in any doubt about how popular the pub quiz has become, well, they're shipping out almost 5,000 quizzes every week with an average of about 30 players. That's 150,000 people across the UK taking part in a quiz every single week.
What colour is the 2012 Olympic torch?
Some questions are easier to find than others. Ask how many times Fred Perry has won Wimbledon, and a search engine will take seconds. But ask about connections.
So what connects Swansea City, Peterborough and Stevenage?
Well, that's a bit harder.
I've definitely seen people cheating, yeah, and I've definitely in the past cheated myself, unfortunately. When you know there's a question that's on the tip of the tongue and you end up using maybe Google or whatever.
We are a nation of quiz lovers, from crosswords to Sudoku. The puzzle is part and parcel of everyday life. But as technology puts encyclopedias of knowledge at our fingertips, the battle is on to outsmart the smartphone. Andrew Plant, BBC News.
And you can play the Breakfast Pub Quiz
You can.
on Twitter this morning.
Hundreds of you are already at BBC Breakfast is the Twitter name, so go there.